Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into something pretty wild, and frankly, deeply unsettling. We're going to undertake a fascinating investigation into the psychology of fear and forbidden spaces. We've got 3 distinct, heavily documented encounters inside abandoned homes that will absolutely make your blood run cold. I'm honestly so excited to guide you through this because the way the human mind reacts to the unknown is just incredibly captivating. I try to replay that night in my head all the time. Just let that sink in for a second. That is a direct reflection from one of the individuals whose story we're exploring today. Imagine carrying around a memory so disturbing, so unexplainable, that you constantly turn it over in your head, searching for a logical answer that just isn't there.
You know that feeling when you drive past an old, boarded-up house? There's that dangerous, almost romantic pull to just peek inside. Why are we so drawn to spaces left behind? We see a decaying building, and our curiosity literally begs us to explore it. But what actually happens when that curiosity leads you into a place that isn't quite as empty as it seems? Well, before we answer that, let's look at 3 distinct case studies of urban exploration gone horribly, horribly wrong.
Case 1. The Military Village. The Cold War ruins with a dark secret. So this location was the ultimate forbidden prize for local teens. It was this mysterious, heavily guarded piece of local lore situated right near an airport, a place they'd whispered about their entire lives, but had never actually seen. Way back when, it was a thriving community of over 200 military families during the Cold War. But in 1984, it was completely abandoned. By the time our group of high school seniors decided to finally trespass, it had been sitting there just rotting away for decades. One of the explorers actually described it as looking like the Upside Down from Stranger Things. You know, a perfectly normal neighborhood, but completely corrupted and decaying. Let's trace their exact steps here, because this is where the tension really starts to build. Step 1, they finally locate this hidden, heavily overgrown dirt road around 11 p.m. Step 2, they cut their headlights, slowly rolling forward in total darkness until they literally have to get out and manually lift these old, rusted roadblock gates. Step 3, they enter the village. And it is entirely surreal. There's dumped furniture, beds, dressers just littering the sides of the road. They pull up to an old church, step out of the car, and begin to explore the ruined homes. Inside one of the houses, the dead silence is suddenly broken by an unnatural creak. And we're not talking about the sound of an old house settling. This is the distinct, heavy sound of someone stepping on floorboards. They call out. The noise stops. Instantly, the driver gets this awful gut feeling and says they need to leave right now. But as they head for the door, one of the friends jumps back. Dead silence falls over the entire group as they watch 3 distinct shadows of human heads moving just outside the window, slipping quietly into the backyard. They whisper to make a run for it. They bolt out the front door, completely expecting to sprint through an empty ghost town. But instead, as they're rushing to their getaway car, the friend in front lets out a blood-curdling scream. Standing right next to their car was a tall woman in a disgusting old black dress, and she already had the back door open with one leg halfway inside their vehicle. When she heard the scream, she dropped the door and bolted straight into the abandoned church. The group peeled out of there so fast they almost crashed. Case 2, the rocking chair. A decomposing house with a horrifying occupant. If the first case was an open village, this one escalates the danger to a structurally collapsing, boarded-up house in the absolute middle of nowhere. To even get inside, the boyfriend literally has to kick down a boarded-up door. And right away, they're met with a giant hole right in the middle of the living room floor. I mean, one wrong step in the dark, and you fall straight into the basement. Upstairs, they find this depressing, totally untouched bedroom with a perfectly made bed and a folded bathrobe. But the most unsettling part? There's a crawl space filled with ancient, dusty boxes of baby food that had clearly been gnawed through by rodents. The smell was absolutely horrific. While staring into that crawl space, the boyfriend hears a loud, rhythmic creaking coming from across the hall. His heart starts racing. He's totally prepared to be jumped by a horde of angry raccoons or feral animals. He quietly creeps into the other bedroom, expecting the worst. But the reality? It's a woman, in a long skirt, sitting in the pitch dark, slowly rocking back and forth in a chair. He takes a step, the floorboards creak, and the woman instantly stops rocking. He awkwardly apologizes, saying he didn't know someone lived there. She completely ignores him and just starts rocking again. He actually takes another step forward, which, let's be honest, ask yourself right now, would you have taken another step toward her? I definitely wouldn't have. He asks if she's okay.
She stands up slowly, and then we get this chilling detail. She didn't say anything. Instead, she just made this noise, like a low hum. She turns around quickly, revealing this old, wrinkled skin, and the boyfriend absolutely panics and just books it down the stairs. He gets downstairs, screaming at his girlfriend that they need to leave immediately. She completely laughs in his face. She thinks it's a prank. She marches upstairs, looks in the room, and laughs even harder because the room is empty. There is no old woman. They turn to leave, walking back towards the stairs, when suddenly, the creaking starts again. The undeniable sound of the chair rocking. The girlfriend freezes. She takes a few slow steps back to the doorway, and there, with her own 2 eyes, she sees the wrinkled woman sitting in the chair, humming a melody. The girlfriend doesn't even say a word. She just turns and runs screaming to the car.
Case 3, the empty house. The terrifying aftermath of the mean neighbor next door. Now, this one isn't some remote urban legend. This is the house directly next door. For 6 months, this grumpy neighbor would bang on his windows, screaming at the local teens if they even got close to his yard. But then, a whole month of eerie silence. The teens actually joked that he must have died, until one early morning, they wake up to flashing sirens, look out their window, and see a zipped-up body bag being carried out of his front door. The guilt hit them instantly. He likely died weeks earlier, completely alone. And because his estranged son never came to clear the place out, the house just sat there, totally untouched for years. Years later, the teenager is actually dared by his friends to go inside. Let's follow his steps here. Step 1, he pries open an unlocked side window. Step 2, he drops down into the pitch black house. Step 3, he immediately gags. The visceral smell of death is just overwhelming, especially in the kitchen, where a coffee mug still sits on the table in front of a chair. It's exactly as the man left it on the day he died. He walks over to the dead man's bedroom and waves to his friends who are watching from his own house next door. Step 4, while waving, he hears a massive, loud bang from the other side of the empty house, like someone literally slamming their body into a wall. He immediately bails out the front door. Later that night, safely back in his own bedroom, his friend wakes him up, absolutely terrified. The friend keeps hearing knocks coming from the dead man's house right next door. They look out the window. In the doorway of the dead man's bedroom, the exact room the teen had just broken into hours ago, there's a dark shape. At first, they try to rationalize it. They think, oh, okay, it's just a coat rack in the dark. But then the silhouette clearly and deliberately moves. They watch in sheer panic as this unexplainable figure walks from the interior doorway and stands directly in the window, staring out into the night. They can clearly see the silhouette of a person standing exactly where no living person should be. After a few agonizing moments, the figure simply turns and fades right back into the darkness of the decaying house. The lingering unknown, making sense of the impossible. So how do we even begin to make sense of the psychological trauma that these types of encounters leave behind? If we look at the rational, logical explanations, we could argue that in case 1, the shadows and the woman were just homeless individuals using the military base for shelter. In case 2, maybe an incredibly resilient squatter was living in that condemned, rotting trap of a house. In case 3, maybe the old man's estranged son just happened to return in the dead of night, in the dark, with 0 lights on. But when you listen to the subjects of these stories, their gut feelings completely reject those safe theories. I mean, a squatter in a house with missing floors, a woman in a weird black dress trying to hijack an occupied car, an estranged son who didn't officially clean out the house for another year. I'm sure there's a rational explanation for what we saw, but I just have no idea what it is. What makes all 3 of these case studies so uniquely frustrating and honestly terrifying is that all 3 locations, the military village, the rotting rocking chair house, the mean neighbor's home, have since been completely demolished or gutted. Whatever secrets were hiding in the dark of those buildings, well, they've been erased forever. Which leaves us with this final, provocative thought to ponder. Were these incredibly bizarre but totally rational encounters with people just living off the grid? Or was it something else entirely? Think about what you would believe if you ever found yourself completely alone, standing in the pitch dark of an abandoned space and the floorboards began to creak. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. I really hope it sparked your curiosity as much as it did mine.
See you next time.